So today we're going to dive into lithium
Okay.
and this potential for like an OPEC of
Yeah.
lithium.
Yeah.
And we've got these really cool sources, one of which is like this academic paper that proposes this whole like framework for how this would actually work.
Right.
It's called GEMEC, so Green Energy Mineral Exporting Countries.
Uh-huh.
And then we've got this like really interesting fact sheet from the New Jersey Department of Health all about lithium, like the actual like nitty-gritty of what this element is.
Yeah. The contrast is interesting, isn't it?
Yep.
We're talking about the global implications of this metal, but also like the really down-to-earth risks of working with it.
Yeah, it's almost like a micro and macro view.
Right.
And so to kind of set the stage, everyone's heard about lithium batteries,
Yeah.
electric vehicles, all that. But like,
It's essential for the green energy transition.
Yeah,
If you're thinking
right.
about electric cars or even like larger energy storage systems,
yeah.
lithium is like the key ingredient.
Okay, so let's say this GEMIC thing actually happens, right?
Okay.
The paper lays out this framework. It's like very similar to OPEC in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the idea is to like coordinate production
Uh-huh.
and export.
Yeah.
So they can influence global prices.
Okay, so it's like instead of oil, it's lithium.
Exactly.
But like, would all these lithium-producing countries even want to join this thing?
That's a great question.
Like, what's in it for them?
Well, think about it this way. Right now, a lot of these countries, they're basically price takers.
Uh-huh.
They just kind of have to accept whatever the market dictates.
Yeah.
A GMIT could like flip the script,
Yeah.
give them the power to set prices, negotiate better deals,
Yeah.
and ultimately get more economic benefits from their resources.
Okay, so it's about leverage.
Yeah, leverage and control.
But like any organization, there's going to be internal politics.
Right? Oh, absolutely.
How realistic is it that these countries could actually agree on stuff?
That's one of the big challenges the paper talks about. These countries are all starting from different places, different economies, different political systems,
Right.
even competing interests sometimes.
Yeah.
So reaching a consensus on like production quotas or export strategies,
Right.
that's not going to be easy.
Like herding cats?
Kind of, yeah.
And then you've got external pressure too.
Oh, for sure.
Like, how are the countries that need lithium going to react to this?
Yeah. Are they going to be happy about it?
I mean, I wouldn't be if I suddenly had like this, organization controlling the thing I need.
Right. It could create like a geopolitical standoff.
Totally.
Those big consuming nations like the US and the EU,
Uh-huh.
they're not just going to sit back and let a bunch of lithium-producing countries call all the shots.
Yeah, they're going to be pushing back for sure.
Right. They might try to diversify their lithium sources, invest in like new battery technologies that don't even use lithium,
Right.
or even try to like weaken the GEAC from the inside.
Like a whole new game.
Yeah, with very high stakes.
Okay, so let's like take a step back from all this geopolitical stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Because there's another really important angle here.
Right.
This New Jersey Department of Health fact sheet,
Yeah,
talks
nah.
about all these risks with lithium,
Yeah.
like fire hazards, potential health problems.
You're not a harmless element.
No, it's not like, you want to be careful with this stuff.
Right. And those risks get even bigger when you think about how much lithium we're going to need.
Yeah, demand is going way up.
Skyrocketing,
So how do we balance that need with the dangers?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, and if this GGMEC thing does happen,
Uh-huh.
could they play a role in making sure lithium production is like, responsible and sustainable?
That's something we definitely need to explore.
Yeah, we have to think about all the angles here.
Absolutely.
But before we get into that,
Yeah.
I think it's worth looking at this case study we have
Yeah.
on South Africa's coal industry.
Okay.
It's not lithium, obviously.
Right.
But it shows just how complicated it is to move away from a resource.
Right. Even when you know you need to.
Yeah.
South Africa is super reliant on coal,
Uh-huh.
but that industry is already facing problems.
Yeah.
Costs are going up.
Uh-huh.
Energy security risks are increasing.
Yeah.
And global demand is falling as the world tries to go green.
Right.
So transitioning away from coal,
Yeah.
it has huge implications for workers and communities.
It's that whole just transition thing.
Exactly. How do you balance environmental goals
Uh-huh.
with protecting people's livelihoods?
Yeah. You don't want people to get left behind.
Right. And that brings us back to this potential GEMEC.
Okay.
Could it be a force for good, not just for the countries producing lithium,
Uh-huh.
but for the planet as a whole?
Yeah. Could they actually help make sure things are done right?
That's what we need to figure out.
So many questions.
And hopefully some answers.
Well, let's dive into this just transition idea a bit more before we move on to part 2.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this idea of a just transition.
Yeah, it's like a really important concept, but also kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's not just about swapping out, dirty jobs for clean ones.
Right. It's got to be like fair for everyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We don't want the green energy transition to just like recreate the same inequalities we see in other industries.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to build a better future, but on top of a foundation that's already kind of messed up.
Right. And that's why we need to like learn from the past.
Uh-huh.
We've seen what happens when resource extraction only benefits a few.
Yeah, like that whole resource curse thing.
Exactly.
Okay. But like for those of us who aren't economists,
Mm-hmm.
what does that actually look like?
Okay, so it's kind of counterintuitive, but countries with tons of natural resources,
Yeah.
they often end up struggling with poverty and corruption and even conflict.
So like having all those resources can actually be a bad thing.
In a way,
How does that even work?
well, one reason is that they become super reliant on just that one commodity,
Okay, so like if the price of oil crashes, or, lithium in this case?
right? Their whole economy goes down with it.
Yikes.
And it can also like prevent other industries from developing.
So they're stuck with just that one thing.
Yeah, no diversification.
Not good.
And then you've got the corruption aspect, where the elites grab all the profits
Yeah.
and the rest of the population doesn't see any benefit.
It's like the opposite of what should happen.
Right. And then on top of all that,
Yeah.
there's the risk of conflict.
Oh, right, like fighting over those resources.
Exactly, both within the country and from outside forces.
Okay, so that resource curse is a serious
Yeah,
problem.
it's something to watch out for.
So how do lithium-producing countries avoid that trap?
Well, that's where a GEMEC could actually be helpful.
Really?
Potentially. Yeah. If it's done right, it could encourage diversification.
So not just relying on lithium.
Exactly, and promote investment in other industries.
Okay.
They could also put in place like strong governance mechanisms.
Right, so less corruption.
Yeah, transparency, accountability, all that.
So it's not just about making money from lithium.
No, it's about using that money wisely,
Right.
building a more resilient economy.
Yeah. One that can actually benefit everyone.
Exactly.
But let's flip it around for a second.
Okay.
What about the countries that need lithium?
The consumers.
Yeah, like wouldn't they be kind of freaked out by a GEMEC?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like suddenly their access to this crucial resource is controlled by this, new organization.
Right, and I think we'd see a lot of strategizing from those countries.
Like what kind of stuff?
Well, they might try to develop their own domestic lithium production.
Even if it's more expensive.
Yeah, because it's about security,
Right, having control over your own supply.
Exactly, or they might look for other suppliers,
Okay.
countries that aren't part of GEMEC.
So it becomes like a competition.
Yeah, a new kind of resource race.
Like the new oil.
In a way, yeah.
And that could lead to all sorts of geopolitical stuff.
Right, tensions, alliances, maybe even conflict. It's a whole new landscape.
Yeah, with new rules and new players.
Okay, so we've got this potential power struggle.
Uh-huh.
But what about technology?
Oh, that's the big wild card.
Like, could new battery tech just change everything?
It could definitely disrupt things.
So, if we don't need lithium anymore,
Right, then a GEMEC wouldn't have that much power.
it's all about the tech.
Yeah, which is why there's so much research into alternatives.
Right.
Like sodium-ion batteries,
Uh-huh.
magnesium-ion, even solid-state batteries.
Wow. Like a whole new frontier.
It is. And whoever wins that race
Yeah.
will have a lot of influence over the future of energy.
Okay, so let's say for argument's sake that a GEMEC does form
Okay.
and they gain control of the lithium market.
Uh-huh.
How might that actually play out?
Well, there are a few scenarios,
Yeah.
On one end, you could have like a best-case scenario
Okay.
where they act responsibly,
Uh-huh.
promote sustainable production,
Yeah.
make sure prices are fair,
Right.
and invest in their member states. It's like a good cartel.
Yeah, like a benevolent lithium overlord.
Okay, but I'm guessing there's another side to this.
Of course.
Like, what's the worst-case scenario?
Well, they could become more aggressive,
Uh-huh.
use their power to squeeze concessions from other countries,
Yeah.
dictate trade terms,
Right.
maybe even get involved in geopolitical maneuvering.
It's like OPEC all over again.
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities.
And that would have global consequences.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like the price of electric cars.
Yeah.
Even the pace of the green energy transition.
It's all connected.
It's a reminder that even with clean energy,
Yeah.
there's still potential for, like, power struggles and competition.
Absolutely. It's not a utopia,
No, definitely
It's a
not.
complex process with a lot of different forces at play.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty complicated picture here.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in.
So what does all this mean for like the average person?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that this green energy transition,
Yeah.
it's not going to be smooth sailing.
There can be bumps in the road.
Definitely winners and losers, unexpected challenges.
So it's not just about buying an electric car and calling it a day.
No, it's about understanding that this transition,
Yeah.
it's going to touch every part of our lives.
And we need to be ready for it.
Exactly. Be informed, engaged, and willing to make tough choices.
Choices about technology,
Mm-hmm.
investments policies,
It's all connected.
and we need to keep asking those hard questions.
Yeah.
Like who benefits from this transition?
Right.
Who pays the costs?
And how do we make sure it's fair for everyone?
Okay, so we've talked about a GM,
Yeah.
the resource curse,
Uh-huh.
different strategies,
Right.
technology disruption, but we haven't really talked about China
Oh, yeah, the elephant in the room?
or maybe the dragon.
Right.
I mean, there's like a huge player in the lithium world.
Absolutely. They control a lot of the processing and manufacturing,
Uh-huh.
and they're investing heavily in securing lithium resources.
Yeah, they're not messing around.
No, they're playing the long game.
So how do you think they'd react to a GME?
That's a good question.
Would they see it as a threat?
Possibly. Yeah.
Like, would they try to undermine it?
Maybe they might offer better deals to producers
Uh-huh.
or try to form their own alliance.
It's like a counter GME.
Yeah, lithium power struggle.
Getting intense.
It is, and it shows that this isn't just about economics. It's
Right.
about geopolitics, strategic competition.
Yeah, the stakes are high.
Very high.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
You have...
Economics, geopolitics, technology.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day,
Yeah,
this is all about people.
that's right.
Real people whose lives are being affected by this lithium boom.
And that brings us back to that idea of a just transition.
Right.
We can't forget about the human side of all this.
So let's talk about that.
Okay.
What are the social and economic impacts,
Uh-huh.
both for the people in lithium-producing countries
Yeah.
and those in consuming nations?
Let's dive in.
So we're talking about the people, the ones actually living this lithium boom.
Right, because it's easy to get caught up in the big picture stuff.
Yeah, like the economics and the geopolitics.
Uh-huh. But there are real human impacts happening right now.
Okay, so let's start with like the lithium-producing countries.
Okay.
We talked about the potential benefits, the money and the jobs.
Yeah, but there are downsides too.
Like what?
Well, mining can be really disruptive to local communities.
Even if it's done responsibly.
Yeah, I mean, it can displace people from their land,
Right.
put a strain on resources like water.
And we've seen this before with other extractive industries.
Oh, absolutely.
Like how it can really hurt indigenous communities.
Yeah, those communities often have such a strong connection to the land.
Right.
So the disruption from mining can be especially hard for them.
So it's not just about creating jobs
No, it's about making sure those benefits are shared fairly.
and that those communities have a say in what happens.
Right. Their voices need to be heard.
Yeah. Okay, so those are some of the challenges on the production side.
Uh-huh.
But what about consumers, in countries that import lithium?
Yeah, because they're going to feel the impact too.
Like how?
Well, the most obvious one is price.
Oh, right. Because as demand goes up,
Yeah.
prices are going to follow.
So electric cars, smartphones, all that stuff could get more expensive.
Exactly. And that raises questions about affordability.
Yeah, like could the green energy transition become something only rich people can afford?
That's a real concern.
So we need to make sure everyone can benefit from this transition.
Right. Not just those who can afford it.
Okay. And there's another impact we haven't talked about.
What's that?
Jobs.
Oh, yeah, jobs.
Like as we shift away from fossil fuels,
Uh-huh.
some jobs are going to disappear,
That's inevitable.
especially in like traditional car manufacturing and fuel production.
Right. Those industries are going to be hit hard.
And even though the green energy transition will create new jobs,
Yeah.
they might not be in the same places.
Or require the same skills.
Mhm.
So we could end up with people out of work.
Yeah, and no way to fill those new positions.
It's like a mismatch.
Exactly. And that's why we need to invest in retraining programs.
So people can adapt to those new opportunities.
Right. It's all about making sure people aren't left behind.
Okay, so we've got the social and economic impacts.
Mhm.
But what about the environment?
Yeah, because we talk about lithium being key to a cleaner future.
Right, but is it actually sustainable?
Well, it's complicated.
Okay.
Lithium mining can have some pretty big environmental impacts.
Like what?
Water depletion, contamination, habitat destruction, even greenhouse gas emissions.
So it's not as clean as we might think?
No, it's not a perfect solution.
And even on the consumer side,
Yeah,
there's the issue of battery disposal.
right, if those batteries aren't handled properly.
It can cause problems.
Definitely.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah, like most things in life.
But we can't just ignore the downsides.
No, we have to acknowledge them and work on solutions.
Like,
Well, we need to invest in making lithium extraction and battery production more sustainable.
yeah.
Find ways to minimize the environmental impact, improve recycling rates, and develop new technologies that are less resource intensive.
So it's like an ongoing process.
It is. There's always room for improvement.
And I guess as consumers,
Yeah,
we have a responsibility too,
absolutely.
like demanding transparency from companies, supporting policies that promote sustainability.
It all adds up.
This has been like a wild ride, hasn't it?
It has. We've gone from lithium OPEC to the resource curse
To technology.
to the ethics of it all.
It's a lot to process.
It is, but it's important stuff.
Yeah, because this green energy transition, it's not just about swapping out fossil fuels.
No, it's about so much more than that.
It's about how we use resources,
Yeah,
how we treat each other.
and ultimately, what kind of future we want to create.
It's a really powerful message.
It is, and it's one we all need to be thinking about.
Well said. And on that note,
Yeah,
thanks for joining us on this deep dive into lithium.
it's been a pleasure.